In a quiet village nestled between tall pine forests and winding rivers, people often whispered about a strange phenomenon. Once every decade, the moon would glow a pale, violet and weep drops of silver light, falling from the sky like tears. The villagers called it the night of the crying moon. No one knew why it happened, but it was always accompanied by silence. Not a single bird would sing, nor a leaf would rustle. It was on one such night that Robert, a curious astronomer, returned to the village where he was born. Robert had been away for many years, traveling across continents, studying stars and forgotten legends. But the stories of his childhood had always haunted him, especially the one his grandmother used to tell about the moon's tears holding forgotten memories. As he stepped off the train into the cool air of Elms Hollow, he was greeted by his childhood friends, Leo, the quiet blacksmith with a heart of gold; Max, the mischievous baker who could never stop smiling; Stella, the village healer known for her mysterious knowledge; and Hazel, Robert's younger sister, now a skilled painter who captured the sky in every brushstroke. They gathered that night at Hazel's cottage on the hill, where they had once spent their youth staring at constellations and dreaming of worlds beyond. As the moon began to rise, a soft violet hue spread across the sky. "It's starting," whispered Hazel, clutching her sketchpad. "Still as eerie as I remember," Leo muttered, tightening his grip on his cloak. The group sat in silence, watching as tiny droplets of silver began to drift down like snow, disappearing before touching the earth. Robert took out a strange device he had built, a small orb that shimmered when the moonlight hit it. He placed it on a stone and waited. Suddenly, the orb pulsed with light and a soft hum filled the air. Then, without warning, a voice whispered from the device, "5 must walk where no stars shine, to find what once was mine." Everyone froze. Did that come from the moon?" Max asked, eyes wide. Stella, ever calm, replied, "It came from the light. The tears are a message." They followed the glow into the woods, guided only by the orb's pulse. The forest, usually full of life, was utterly still. No wind, no chirping crickets, only the crunch of leaves beneath their boots. Eventually, they came upon an ancient stone arch covered in vines, pulsing with faint moonlight. As they passed through it, they found themselves in a strange place, not quite the forest, not quite a dream. The stars above shimmered differently, like memories rather than constellations. In this dreamlike realm, each friend faced visions. Robert saw a version of himself as a child, staring through a telescope while his grandmother whispered stories. She turned to him and said, "The moon remembers what we forget." Leo stood before a forge, his hands shaking as he crafted a sword. A figure of his late father appeared beside him, placing a guiding hand on his shoulder. Max found himself in a bakery of clouds, where every loaf he touched turned into laughter. He realized joy was more powerful than he ever imagined. Stella walked among spirits of ancient healers, their hands glowing with light. They spoke not in words but in energy, reminding her that true healing comes from shared pain. Hazel stood before a blank canvas that reflected the moon. When she touched it, her own memory spilled onto the surface of loss, hope, and dreams once buried. When the visions faded, the group stood before a large silver pool. The moonlight tears were collecting here, glowing softly. In its reflection, they saw not themselves, but the entire village, asleep, unaware, and distant. A voice echoed again, "You have remembered what others have lost. The moon cries not for sadness, but for stories left untold." Robert knelt beside the pool. "What do we do now?" "Take a single tear," the voice answered, "and share it with the world." Stella stepped forward and gently scooped one glowing drop into a glass vial. The orb stopped pulsing. As they turned to leave, the forest around them began to stir, wind flowed again. Owls hooted, and the stars returned to their rightful places. The arch behind them faded, and they found themselves back at the edge of the woods. The next morning, as the village awoke, Hazel unveiled a massive painting in the square. A canvas filled with the dreamlike realm, the weeping moon, and the silver pool. Below it, Stella placed the vial in a glass case. Robert began writing a book titled The Moon That Cried, capturing every detail of their journey. Each person who touched the vial said they felt a memory return, a forgotten song, a lost loved one, a childhood dream. And so, the moon's tears began to heal. The night of the crying moon came again 10 years later. But this time, the village stayed awake to watch, listen, and remember. And the moon, though it wept, did so with peace.